Bringing in my senior colleague, Gaurav Sawant, our managing editor, also joining us this morning at this point in time. Gaurav, lovely pictures coming in from Delhi's Palam Airport where the family has arrived in Delhi. But we've been talking about how important this is as a personal visit, but a lot of business to be done as well. Talk to us, what are the deliverables for both the countries as far as trade talks are concerned, strengthening economic bilateral relationship between both the countries concerned. Gaurav.
The fact that he was given a tri-services guard of honor at the Palam Technical Area at Delhi is the first indication of how serious India takes the official visit of the US Vice President to India. So all protocols, the fact that there's a union minister in waiting to escort him, the fact that the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, will be calling on him in a while from now, the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has invited him for an official dinner at his residence. All of these are very, very major indicators. So there is an official link. There is a great personal link. There's a great personal chemistry and a relationship in this relationship. The fact that his wife is Indian, the fact that his children are dressed in that kurta pajama, all of that. Look, India and the United States of America, two of the world's most powerful and the largest democracies of the world. Noisy, yes. There's cacophony, yes. But these are two relationships, two countries whose relationship benefits not just the people in each other's country, but benefits, as the Prime Minister has put it in the past, it can benefit mankind, can benefit humankind across the world. The trade ties, well, right now there are hectic parlays that will go on. In the second part of his leg, they travel to Rajasthan, to Jaipur. In Jaipur, J.D. Vance will be delivering a very important talk, and that talk will give out perhaps to the public what his worldview is, but to a very large extent, it is known. He echoes US President Donald Trump's line of America first. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in the past 11 years, we've heard him, and even before that, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi is very strong on India first. So when it's an America first and an India first, where do you find the middle ground? That's exactly what these hard-nosed bargaining and negotiations will be all about, that are about to kick off in a very critical stage. And that is why countries like China are very apprehensive. So while they watch from the sidelines, they know that this will impact China in a very big way. So there was subtle messaging, and there is harsh messaging that comes from there. So Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to India right now, which will be followed subsequently by the visit of Donald Trump to India for the Quad Summit, all of these are very, very critical pointers to where India-America relationship is headed in the times to come. Sneha.
Absolutely. And Gaurav, talk to us about the kind of leverage that India would have as far as, reaching a middle ground on trade and tariffs is concerned.
So, US President Donald Trump has described Prime Minister Narendra Modi as somebody who is a tough negotiator, who indulges in hard-nosed bargaining, because he would want to see whatever is best for India and Indian interests. But when you negotiate, when you talk business, when you do a deal, it cannot be win-win for India and lose-lose for America. So there will have to be a win-win for America and a win-win for India as best as possible. So we will have to, look. Many analysts and even on India Today have described this moment as a very critical inflection point for our country. 1991 was when we opened up our markets, and it's held India in great stead. This is that second major inflection point as far as our economy is concerned. How much are we willing to open up, to ensure that the best of the world comes here? What is it that we can leverage? Now, leveraging is not just in trade. You can leverage it strategically. You can leverage it in so many different ways. How much are we willing to do that? And how much are we willing, to do seed ground and gain ground? Because Donald Trump also, he'll adopt a maximalist position, but that's just round one. What will this conclude with is the big question. Point one. Point two, when you talk to some of your trade negotiators or people who've been negotiating with them in Europe or in the United Kingdom or in other parts of the world, they say India indulges in real hard-nosed bargaining. There are times that Indian diplomats and negotiators, they've gotten up from the table and walked off if the deal is not in India's favor, and then they have to be brought back. And then there's a little gift from India, and there's a little gift from the other country. So all of that information is not yet in public domain. We will have to see what comes out of these negotiations. India has a lot of leverages. We're a big market. We have a young, growing middle class. We have a young population. All of that is our location, our strategic location. The fact that we're the world's largest democracy, the fact that we're the only country in this part of the world that's a counterbalance to expansionist forces, the fact that the global south banks so much on India, and the fact that India believes, it doesn't just say Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, India believes in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The fact that we are friends with countries like Russia and with Ukraine, with Israel and with Palestine. There could be two conflicting nations. India is friends with all. We may have a conflict with China. At the same time, we're negotiating with China. All of these things are watched by the world. So when they ultimately come down even to a trade deal, they see bigger gains. America will want to see the bigger gain. India will want to see the bigger gain. And we will see what emerges from this. But both countries realize they can't do without each other. Sneha.
Absolutely. Gaurav, also this is not just about what India is expecting vis-a-vis relief as far as trade and tariffs is concerned, and also what the US is expecting. America's expectation from us, access to agriculture and dairy sectors, which India is going to be very reluctant about, given the kind of workforce that India employs within these sectors and the kind of domestic compulsions back home for India to adhere to their demands as well, isn't it?
So, from what I have been told, and it's a very nuanced position that India will also take. It's not just in black and white. If we give them access, how much access? What do we give access to? If we want to seek access, how much access are we seeking? This is where that bargaining comes down to nuts and bolts. It comes, if we're going to give them some access, it cannot be blanket access. And even if you talk about the dairy products that will come in, how much of the dairy products will flood India's market? How much will it remain for niche? What kind of agricultural products come into our market? Again, where will we permit them? Where we will not permit them? Where there will be absolutely no give when it comes to protecting interests of India's farmers? No prime minister, no government, no one who's, however strong, cannot protect their own farmers. So that is what negotiations are all about. And they may take time. If there are consequences, they will have to see how best do you minimize the impact of those consequences. That is what negotiation is all about. India will also give across our point of view. Remember, America is a developed country. India is a developing country. We are hoping to become a developed country by 2047. So there are considerations that India would also expect the United States to understand. And the United States will also have to see if they want India to be that strong counterbalance to expansionist forces and forces that want to take the US down, there will have to be a give to protect Indian interests. So there are so much negotiations that take place, and especially when it comes to the two very crucial sectors you pointed out, dairy and agriculture. That is to a very large extent something that India would want to protect Indian interests, perhaps seeing what are the costs. So again, there are mitigating factors that you will look at. There are factors that you will see what are our gains in another sector. What kind of defense hardware do we want? What kind of strategic gains do we want? What are we giving to get what we want? So the negotiations are only starting, and we'll see what comes out. But perhaps in this J.D. Vance visit, we will hear a public articulation of the American thought process. We've heard, Secretary Lutnick, and he was on India Today. We heard him on India Today. We've heard them in the United States of America. We know what Donald Trump is thinking. He's even in the election campaign, he called India a tough negotiator with maximum tariffs and the tariff king of the world. But there are places that our tariffs need to go down. We need to protect our industry. At the same time, our industry also needs to come up to global standards. Protectionism does not mean that you don't give the best world-class quality to your consumers. Your consumers also cannot be denied the best that's available in the world. So these are things that the government and the negotiators will look into, Sneha.
Absolutely. This is not just about tariffs. This is also about, Gaurav, deepening the economic ties that both the countries share in that sense to further boost trade ties. There is an ambitious target that has been set by both the countries, and the expectation is that this would in fact materialize in the form of a bilateral trade agreement which would be signed by both the nations after this visit.
So the bilateral trade agreement is expected to be signed by fall. Very crucial visits will take place. Very crucial negotiations will take place. One part of the negotiations will take place in the United States of America. And until the deal is inked, it's kept very close to their chest on either side. They'll hold their cards very close to their chest because they wouldn't want anything to derail the bilateral trade agreement either side. There's a 90-day period. So the advantage or disadvantage, whichever way, you've been negotiating it for a long time, but now you want to arrive at a conclusion, before this 90-day fall, or there will be a 26% tariff, reciprocal tariff, and which again Donald Trump says is discounted tariff. So there are aspects that will have to be looked into, but it's not just trade. Trade is one aspect. Strategic relationship between the two countries, the defense hardware that India hopes to acquire, and more than hardware, India is also looking at co-development, joint manufacturing, and make in India as part of the deal. Whether that moves forward and with the pace with which it moves forward is very crucial. A lot of promises have been made even in the past, but do keep a couple of things in mind. We've been tracking the India-America relationship in this phase from the time that 1998, when the nuclear tests were carried out. America imposed sanctions on India. 1999, Kargil war happened. Not only were some sanctions removed, but the relationship moved to a different level between then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Bill Clinton as the President of the United States of America. When he visited India, the kind of pomp and show around that visit, the transition that took place. Then Dr. Manmohan Singh and George Bush, the civil nuclear agreement that was inked, and that catapulted India to a different league, despite the opposition of the left, Indian left, threatening and attempting to bring down the government. Then with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he became Prime Minister in 2014, engaging. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is engaged with Barack Obama. The relationship has advanced. Then with the President Trump in his first tenure, that's the time you'd recall that the relationship went together altogether to a different level and a new high that was achieved in some aspects, including, you'd recall, when Pakistani terror was hitting India, the Balakot bombing that took place, the Article 370 that was abrogated 5th of August 2019. Subsequently, during Clinton-Modi era, the relationship went forward. And if I may, so whether it's a Namaste Trump in Ahmedabad in 2020 or a Howdy Modi in Houston, Texas before that, you're seeing the personal bond between the two leaders that does take this relationship in a different level. So finally, my understanding is, in case there are a couple of niggles, perhaps they may be sorted out at the level of the top leadership subsequently. And now when President Trump comes to India for the Quad Summit, India was to host it last year, but since, President Joe Biden, that was his last year, and he said, can I host it in the United States of America? And India said, sure, you may. We'd be happy if you did. Now that is India's turn, or the US turn. Now in 2025, it happens in India. So you'll have all the Quads head of state and governments in India. So that also shows strategically our rising importance. So a lot of things that are happening in 2025, which will define, India's journey, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi puts it, to a Viksit Bharat in 2047, Sneha.
I'm just going to come back to you for more details and more perspective on that important visit. Gaurav taking us back in time and telling us about why this is so crucial, given the kind of ties that both the countries have had. And the context of this is so important, given what are India's expectations. It's not just trade, tariffs and business, but it also has got to do with defense procurement.